Welcome back. This is chapter 13 of our SQL course. In the previous chapter, we learned SQL arithmetic, string, datetime, and conversion functions. Today, we will learn 3 ways to deal with null values. By the way, null is not equal to 0 or blank. Null is a null. The database we are going to use is our clinical system database, and that's the table we're going to use, fact-proc table. There are 30 rows in our table. Copy this code and paste it here. Now I'm gonna use a where clause to filter down the data. Urgency ID. That's the last column, urgency ID. So that's what we're gonna use. If we need to pick up all the null values in urgency ID, that's how we're going to write is null. Highlight this code and run that. As you can see, it filtered out on null values. If we want to exclude null from our data, we can do so. Copy that and we're going to use not operator in between ISNULL. So that's how we run that, and it is displaying all the rows other than null values. If you want to know more about not operator, I've covered this in chapter 12 of this video series. Let's look at method 1. So the first method is going to be, let's copy that code, paste it here. Let's bring the urgency ID column and then copy and paste it one more time. Get rid of this null and not null and only bring back the null values. So these are our 2 columns where it says the urgency ID is null. So how we're going to deal with that is the functions we're going to use is called as COALESCE, COALESCE, urgency ID, and then we are going to replace it with, close the bracket, word unknown. So to correct the spelling, COALESCE. Okay, give an alias, new ID. Right, so when we run that, right, so it says because the data type we used is integer, so we need to convert this to string, and then this will work. So what we need to do is a function called convert. That's we learned in chapter 11 of this video series. Convert and char, comma, and there you go. Now if we run that, as you can see, we have changed the null value to unknown. Just briefly, I can explain that. Copy that code and put it here, paste. So that's the syntax of the convert. So we are converting the data type of urgency ID is integer. We are converting to char, making it as a string, and then okay, if we run that, so this is our urgency ID. This is urgency ID again, but data type is char. That's a string, and then that's how we can deal with our null values. Right. Okay. Let's look at method 2. Copy that again, Control C, Control V, and instead of, okay, now get rid of that, we don't need that anymore. Instead of using COALESCE key, we are going to use ISNULL function, and then if we run that again, you can see all the null values has been converted to unknown. So we can replace the value of null, and we can give anything here of your choice. If you want to use any other meaningful string, you can put it there. So this was our method 2. Bear in mind, because our urgency ID was integer data type, we have to convert it to varchar first, that's a string, and then we can deal with the null value using the ISNULL function. Right, so that was our method 2. Finally, let's look at method 3. That we will use with the case statement. I believe in chapter 9 I've covered case statements, so if you want to know more about case statements, you can go back and check that video. Okay, right, so just copy that part, select urgency ID, and then we need that. Okay, so simply run that. That's our urgency ID, 30 rows, 1s and 2s and nulls in there. Right, okay, now we are going to start our case statement. Case when urgency ID equal to 1, then change it to elective. Instead of typing the code, we can copy and paste. 2, okay, if it is 2, as you can see we have 1s and 2s in there, so if it is 2, then the urgency is going to be emergency. And finally, if that's not the case, then else, call it unknown, and then we can end our case statement, give a meaningful name, and we can call it urgency. Right, let's execute that. As you can see, where the urgency ID is 1, it has converted to or changed to elective. Number 2 is emergency, and where there is null values, then they have been changed to unknown. What we can do is, if we put distinct after select, it will only bring back unique values. Right, so there are only 3 unique values. Null is unknown, 1 is elective, 2 is emergency. So these are the 3 ways of dealing with null values. Thanks for watching this video. In our next chapter, we will learn SQL joins. SQL joins is one of the most important topics, and many people struggle with that. I hope you will find that video very useful. See you in the next video.